Yo, 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 what is up, everybody? It is Alex back once again. And you like my new setup? I just have a poster on the wall. That's about it. You might see a new setup at some point. I don't know. I'm working on it. But today we are here to talk about the illustrious I Know What You Did Last Summer. So, I kind of always heard of this one and it got lumped in with the Scream era slasher, meta movies written by Kevin Williamson, same guy as Scream. And I was just kind of like, it's just going to be a Scream clone, or that's how a lot of people talk about these movies. I know there's another one. I'm trying to remember, maybe Urban Legend or something is its name. I know there's a couple other around this time. I was surprised. This movie was really good. It does not have great critical or audience receptions as far as Rotten Tomatoes goes, but it made a heck of a lot of money, man. This movie made over $100 million. I think it was like $15 million budget or something. So this movie did really well. It was all the craze when it came out. And to be honest, I was really impressed. Like the first act really had me grabbed. Once they hit the dude and through that whole process of them going back and forth, her like, no, let's definitely not do it. The one dude who like ends up like getting super in on her Barry on Jesse, and how she was the one like, let's not do it, and Freddie Prince was like all in, like explaining it. Then when they get to the water, he's not willing to do it. So then Sarah Michelle Gellar helps push him in the water. That was really cool, and there was a lot of cool moments. Like the dude comes back to life, like under the water, and he's looking at him. Like so, the opening was very well done, and I was a big fan. Then we keep going, and the second act it it's decent. I mean, it's got a lot to keep me interested. Like when they went to what's her name, Eden's house, the Eden house, right? They went and saw her. She looks like Henrietta from Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. I don't know if it's the same person, but she looks a lot like her. If y'all know what I'm talking about, but that whole interaction was actually pretty cool. I did like her. She was a very sympathetic character. I believe she's like David Egan. It was Egan, I think, his sister. Man, that whole story was very tragic. That whole thing was very tragic. The twist that it was actually not him was really cool, though. Very clever. I like that. Freddie Prinze Jr. isn't in a lot of this movie. He's in the first act, a bit in the second, pops in a bit more in the second, and then he's there for like the like final sequence of the third act. Which that final sequence of the third act went hard, man. That was so cool. Like that might be one of my favorite chase sequences I've ever seen in anything. I don't know, that was super cool, especially in like a slasher movie of this kind at its time. There had been so much done, right? The Halloween style, the Nightmare on Elm Street style, you have the Texas Chainsaw Massacres, right? Like this is post all of those, post Scream, and they had like the fishing element, which is what made this one so cool and so unique. They had not just a fisherman outfit, the hook. They also made that work really well because he was actually a fisherman. He was actually a fisherman. So like the outfit worked perfectly. It wasn't just like him putting on a thing. It was he was a fisherman. So that was really cool. But their chase sequence in the boat of her like crawling through the innards of the boat, then getting to the spot with all the ice that's supposed to keep the fish on ice, and then she finds the bodies, and then he like opens it up because it's this freezer. I guess maybe she broke open the freezer under there or something. Are we really led to believe now that I'm thinking about it that that freezer open? Like, how the hell is he supposed to get anything out of there? I think she like busted open and a bunch of ice fell. But anyways, that chase sequence was so cool, and then Freddie Prinze Jr. coming in and knocking him over the head with the 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 boat hammer thing, hooks, nets, that thing. He hits him right in the head with it, right? And then he comes swinging down, and how like Freddie Prinze Jr. earlier is thrown off the ship and he's like holds on to a rope that's attached to it and crawls up a net. It was it was so well how efficiently they used the boating aspect of this. Super cool, makes it super memorable. I thought it was very well done. And at the end, him getting his hand cut off, so it's like he can actually become Hookman. They did a great sequel bait. Oh, the bodies normally turn up, and then her scene in the shower. Oh, first off, her talking on the phone to Freddie Prinze Jr. like, "Ooh, yeah, baby," right? She was kind of like how Sarah Michelle Gellar was at the start. So I thought that was kind of cool how they kind of full circled that in a way. I don't know exactly what they were going for, but I thought it was cool regardless. Um, then the whole sequel bait of I Still Know, and then him jumping through it. I Still Know would have been enough for me. You went too far with him jumping through on the sequel bait. You jumped the shark a little bit, if you know what I mean. Like you already had it. You already had double sequel bait, right? Like, oh, he didn't die. He just got his hand cut off. He's back in the water like he was at the start, right? Oh, he'll turn up again, right? That's let's call that one sequel bait. Then you got I Still Know, right? That's the double. Okay, so we're already 3 layers deep, man. It's like we're already a triple chocolate chunk, and then like he just pops out of it, and they smash the cookie. They they almost ruined it. I'm not gonna lie, it's still good. I still want to watch the next one. I want to see this man with no hand and a hook, and see what he gets up to. Who's this new cast of characters? Does Freddie Prinze come to New York? We'll see. But I thought this movie was very well done. They had this cast of 4 characters, which were all different but similar and believable that they would be friends, but also the conflicts that they do have with one another. I thought their dynamic was very well established and played. Um, you had the pretty bitchy girl, right, and Sarah Michelle Gellar that they actually got you to feel for, and you were rocking with her for a lot of the chase sequences, which for her, I thought a lot of them were actually done very well, and they weren't third act chase sequences, which made them even more impactful because the whole time you think she's gonna die, right? Because it's a second act chase sequence, but it keeps going, which makes her just more and more badass. Like all the moves she ends up making by the end, like she jumps off a second story into trash while in her like what like pageant dress, right? She kicked out a cop window. Like she's not just gonna be locked in the back with that. Nah, she kicks out that window and crawls through the broken glass everywhere. Man, she was such a badass. They made her character so likable and so easy to root for. So I really respected the way they handled her character. And Barry, this guy is like the typical uh, oh, I'm so cool, rich jock dickhead, right? Rich jock dickhead, like through and through. That's how he's established, right? Alcoholic, super rich. My dad's gonna be pissed. We just killed the guy. I'm gonna like lose every. I don't know if he was talking scholarship, but anyway, he was like very typical of that cliche. He was a total cliche in the start. But then they just kept tweaking him more and more into a character that, like, at the beginning, he was just talking about Sarah Michelle Gellar as though, like, for her beauty, that she was like this object, right? But then as time goes on throughout the film, you can see, like, what there actually was between them. And they have certain looks in their eyes at times. And it's like, you can see him, like, genuine for moments when he's looking at her, and a lot of the times he gets angry trying to defend her, and him just trying to defend them in general. They really shined him through as somebody who, even though he's a dick, he's brash, he's like arrogant, he does care about his friends and he wants to look out for the people who are close to him, and they made him a real person that you actually want to root for by the time he meets his demise. One thing that was interesting about this film which I don't know how I feel. I think I like it, is that a lot of the kills weren't really shown. And I don't think a lot of them were needed to be shown. It was not, this movie wasn't about the kills. There was some cool kills though, which I like. Some of them were really clever. Like when oh, what's her name? What's Sarah Michelle Gellar's name in this movie? So let's call her Sarah, right? When her sister dies, Elsa, I think. When Elsa dies, damn, the sister's name is Elsa and she died. Interesting. Um, when Elsa dies, that was really cool. The like slash, right? When they killed, what was his name, Max in the beginning, the guy that plays Leonard in Big Bang Theory, I was like, yo, what? This like weird, brooding, kind of creepy dude. That's Leonard. So him getting the hook through the mouth and being dragged over, and then him ending up in the trunk, all the crap. So there was some cool gore in this, some cool kills, but they didn't necessarily feel the need to go all out with all of the kills. Like Barry's kill, you didn't see much. Sarah Michelle Gellar's, you didn't see much, which honestly, I kind of liked. I kind of liked. It was very interesting the way that they um like played with your expectations, right? Like so the whole time you think it's David Egan, but it's not. It's the guy that they actually thought they killed, which they didn't kill, which was a very interesting way to take it because I didn't expect that. I didn't expect that at all. And it was a very big subversion because it's like, oh, a lot of this stuff we set up doesn't matter. It go back to the beginning. It's that person. It's not somebody that knows that person. It's literally that person. So I thought that was very clever and an interesting approach. And yeah, I don't know. Overall, very likable characters. The pacing dragged a little bit in the second act, but it was strong. I mean, it kept me engaged. There was a bunch of different sequences. Honestly, me saying the pacing, there wasn't very many pacing problems at all, to be quite honest with you. Every step of the way, they kept the tension and kept it pushing. And yeah, when I say the second act dragged a little bit, that's just because the first and third act are so strong. But the second, me saying dragged honestly isn't giving it enough credit. It really it it works it thoroughly. And yeah, so this is a classic slasher film. Yeah, I'm kind of not kicking myself for not watching it sooner, but this is one that I'm adding to one of my favorite slasher films. This was very impressive. This is very solid. I don't think this one gets talked about enough. You almost never hear people talk about how good I Know What You Did Last Summer is. I'm gonna have to start singing this film's praises. This film is awesome, man. I can't wait to check out the next one. And yeah, amazing opening act. Crazy. I mean, talk about crazy. It establishes everything so well. So straight up, start there, right? The way that everything's different a year later and they slowly come back together and it's like a mirror of itself. Super cool. I did forget to mention that in the beginning, on the first bit, what's her name? Jessie, like the main girl, was the one that was most like, oh, I don't feel comfortable with this, right? But then at the end, she was the one that's most like, we need to finish this. I want my life back, right? And then you have Freddie Prinze Jr., who's like, I don't know. Even though in the beginning he was trying to convince her to. And then she's like, so you're going to do it? He's like, dude, it was just so cool because they reversed that so well and in such a believable way. All these actors did a great job. This was a very strong script by Kevin Williamson. He nailed it. Back to back Scream Then I Know What You Did Last Summer. Man, this guy was killing it in the late 90s. Whew, so that amazing first act goes crazy. The second act is strong. They're stringing a lot of pieces together, adding a lot of cool new characters. Um, Specifically that one girl, the sister of David Egan. I'm trying to remember her name, She was really dope. I like that character a lot. I'm convinced she's the woman who plays Henrietta from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. I'm gonna have to look that up, but it's only a few years later. It's like 6 years later, so she wouldn't look that different. She wouldn't look that, but she, anyways. So that second act goes really strong. The end of the second act chase sequence with Sarah Michelle Gellar is crazy good. It is so insanely good with that cop, starting with her. Honestly, the whole sequence from her at the pageant all the way through to her death is so good. That sequence goes so hard, and the sequence right after on the boat with all of them, it goes so hard. Like, these are two of the best chase sequences I've ever seen in slasher films in this one movie, back to back, very well acted. And I don't hear anyone talking about this. I don't hear anyone really singing this film's praises. This film is so good. If you haven't seen it, I might have just spoiled some of it. I don't think we went too crazy into it. Honestly, a lot of the twists aren't as important as how fun the ride of this movie is to watch, how well crafted it is as a story. The direction is really solid. There's some cool cinematography moments. The soundtrack is pretty dang clean. The acting is phenomenal, like I said. Freddie Prinze, Sarah Michelle Gellar. I don't know the other two's names, but they did amazing as well. And the villain, pretty damn good, I gotta say. But man, this film is amazing. I'm trying to think, like, as far as a slasher film goes, like just a slasher film, not a horror movie, a slasher film, I would give it a 10 out of 10. Honestly, this might just be biased because I just watched it, but as far as the slasher template, what we're working with up front, this movie kills it. This movie kills it on all fronts. There is no time wasted. It captures you immediately. And then the end of the second act and final act go crazy. And its introduction in the second act goes super hard. The second act is perfect through line to the end. And then the sequel bait is phenomenal. Like I said, they crush the cookie a little bit. They don't go as far as the original Nightmare on Elm Street. I could dock it a point, but that's almost like perfection in a way because it is like a slasher sequel trying to like, yeah, there's going to be another one. Do we have to make that even more clear now? It I think I'm going to have to go 10 out of 10. If I were to take a point off for anything that I'm thinking about right now, it would be for that ending, but I'm not going to. I'm just not going to. So I might be crazy. I might come back and look at this later like it's not a 10 out of 10. All right. All right. This might be recency bias. But I say it's a 10 out of 10. And regardless, this will be one of my favorite slasher films. This is an absolutely incredible slasher film, and everybody should see it. If you're a fan of the slasher genre, watch this movie. This There is no reason why this movie shouldn't be more talked about. Anyways, here's me in my very classic studio. My bed over there. You can see the air freshener right there, and the little poster I added. I got a cane I'm playing with here. Um, but yeah, guys, I know what you did last summer. I know the third one is like people talk about how it's like one of the worst. We'll see what happens. Maybe it'll be the best of the worst. We'll see. You know what I'm saying? But until next time, everybody, it's Alex. I will see you later.